My husband and his mother conspired to cut me out of the will. When I refused to hand over my share, they changed the locks on the house and told me to never come back. As I pounded on the door, my husband yelled, "This is what you get for trying to steal from us." But what he didn't realize was that his words would come back to haunt him in ways he couldn't imagine. I'm not sure how to start this except to say I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who gets thrown out of her own home by the man she married. But that's what happened. My name is Rachel. I'm 44, and this story has been sitting like acid in my chest for almost a year now. I'm ready to tell it, and I don't care how ugly it makes me or them look. I met Anthony at a church event in Savannah. He was clean-cut, had that southern charm, and knew how to talk to people. His mother ran a construction company with his father, and when his dad passed, Anthony took over. Everyone in town respected the family name. I came from nothing. Grew up in a 2-bedroom rental with my mom working double shifts at a diner. So when Anthony took an interest in me, I felt like I'd won the lottery. He said he loved that I was grounded, said I had a good heart. We got married 2 years after we met. Small ceremony, nothing fancy. I wore my sister's old dress. We moved into a 3-bedroom ranch his parents helped him buy on Wilmington Island. I thought we were building something together. I worked part-time as an ER nurse while we tried to get pregnant. I had 2 miscarriages in the first 3 years. The second one nearly broke me. I stopped working after that. Emotionally, I couldn't handle being around babies at the hospital. Anthony said it was fine. "You've done enough," he told me. "Just focus on getting better." But after that, things changed. His mother, Marlene, was always cold with me, but now she got bold. She'd make comments like, "I guess Rachel's more of a house cat than a workhorse," or "Shame we won't get grandkids from this one." Anthony would stay quiet. Sometimes he'd chuckle. That silence cut deeper than anything she said. But I stayed. I still believed in the man I married. We even met with a lawyer to write wills after a fender bender shook us up. I remember that meeting clear as day. Anthony putting his hand over mine and saying, "We protect each other." Everything was supposed to be split 50-50ths. My name was on the deed. That house was just as much mine as his. A year later, I found out he changed everything behind my back. It slipped out one night during dinner at Marlene's place. She was drinking wine and said, "Once the house is fully back under our name, I'm tearing out those awful cabinets." I froze. "Our name?" I asked. She looked at Anthony, smirked, and said, "Oops." That night I pressed Anthony. At first he denied it. Then he told me, "You don't contribute anymore. You don't deserve half of what I've built." He said he had the business, he paid the bills, he kept the house running. I was just a guest. I felt like I'd been punched in the throat. He and Marlene rewrote his will, removed my name from everything they could, and even filed to try to challenge the house deed. I only found out because Marlene got sloppy. They weren't just trying to cut me out in case he died, they were trying to erase me while I was still alive. 2 weeks later, I went to the store. When I came back, my house key didn't work. I tried again. Nothing. I rang the doorbell. I heard movement inside. Then Anthony opened the door. He stood there, arms folded, with Marlene right behind him. "This is what you get for trying to steal from us," he said. "Not me. Us. Him and his mother." I begged him. I cried. I asked to at least get my things. My clothes. My dog. He said, "You have nothing here." Then he slammed the door. I stood outside, pounding and yelling like a crazy person while the neighbors watched. That night, I slept in my car behind a Kroger. I had no money. No family to go to. My bank account had been drained. He'd closed our joint accounts without telling me. I felt humiliated. But also something else, something sharp, cold, and steady. They thought they broke me. But I kept records. I had the original will. I had text messages. I had emails where he called me co-owner. I had voicemails from him admitting things. And I knew someone who owed me a favor, someone who worked in real estate law. I wasn't going to beg again. I was going to ruin them. Not just legally. Not just financially. I was going to expose every lie, every manipulation, every rotten part of what they did. Because they didn't just kick me out of my house. They spit on everything I gave up for that man. And I was done letting them win. I spent the next 2 weeks living out of my car and crashing on the couch of a former coworker named Danny. She worked the night shift at the hospital, so during the day I had the apartment mostly to myself. I used that time to dig. I found an old box of paperwork I'd kept in storage. Copies of the original will, our joint mortgage paperwork, and even emails between me and Anthony where he clearly said things like, "Our house, and when we retire, we'll sell our place." Every little breadcrumb became ammo. Danny helped me contact her cousin Mel, who was a paralegal for a bulldog real estate lawyer named James Kelly. I laid out every piece of paper I had, showed him pictures of the house, even gave him the contact info of the lawyer who'd originally drawn up our wills. James didn't say much at first. He just looked at everything, nodded, and said, "Yeah, they screwed up. We're going after them." We started with the house. Anthony and I were still legally married. My name was still on the deed. The will they tried to change didn't override the joint ownership of the property, especially not without notifying me. James filed a motion to block the sale of the house, then another motion to force access, so I could retrieve my personal belongings. That's when Anthony got aggressive. He started showing up at Danny's apartment building. First it was just him sitting in his truck out front, engine running, windows up. Then it was knocking on the door. Once, I opened it a crack and he said, "You're making a mistake, Rachel. Just sign the papers and walk away. You've got nothing to win here." I told him I wasn't afraid of him. That made him laugh. "You should be," he said, "because I've got more money, more power, and more time. You're just a broke woman squatting on a couch." Marlene started showing up too. She left notes in Danny's mailbox saying things like, "Stop clinging to what's not yours." One of them had a picture of my dog with the words "He's happier now" scribbled across the back. That pushed me over the edge. James filed a restraining order against both of them. Then he went further. He uncovered that Anthony had moved over $75,000 from our joint savings into an account under Marlene's name just weeks before locking me out. That's financial fraud, plain and simple. We filed criminal charges. The local paper got wind of it. A reporter called asking for comment. I didn't speak to them, but I know Marlene did. She always wanted to control the narrative. She told the paper I was a bitter woman trying to destroy a good man's reputation. But by then, James had already submitted all our documentation to the court. The narrative was shifting. The judge granted me temporary access to the house under police escort. When I walked through that door, everything looked different. Marlene had moved her things in. My clothes were gone. My grandmother's quilt was missing. My jewelry box was emptied. My wedding photos were ripped in half and tossed in a bin. I didn't say a word. I just took pictures of everything. I knew what I was building now. It wasn't just a legal case. It was a story. A complete, airtight story of betrayal, manipulation, and theft. And when it was ready, I was going to make sure everyone saw it, his business partners, his friends, even the clients who kept the construction company afloat. I wasn't going to just win in court. I was going to burn the fantasy of their perfect little life to the ground. A month after I got temporary access to the house, things took a darker turn. One of Anthony's employees, Jared, reached out to me. He was a foreman on several of their job sites and had worked for the company since Anthony's dad was still alive. We'd met a few times over the years, and I always liked him. He was quiet, respectful, the kind of guy who didn't get involved in drama. He called and said, "I don't like what he's doing to you. I thought you should know. Anthony's been telling clients you had a drug problem, that you broke into the house. That's why he changed the locks." I nearly dropped the phone. "He's lying to everyone, Rachel," Jared said. "And it's not just that. There's something else you need to see. But I won't talk about it on the phone." I met him at a diner outside town. He brought a manila folder with him, full of invoices, bank statements, and something else, a copy of a contract signed between Anthony and a woman named Lisa Jeffers. Lisa was a realtor. Turns out, Anthony had quietly listed the house for sale using her. Not through the public MLS, but privately, to a cash buyer. He was trying to push the sale through before the court could intervene. If it hadn't been blocked, I would have come back to find strangers living in my home. But here's where it gets worse. Lisa wasn't just some random realtor. She was Anthony's side piece. Jared told me he'd seen them together at a cabin he was hired to remodel. Holding hands, kissing, spending weekends there. Marlene knew. She even called Lisa a better match behind my back. I couldn't breathe when I heard it. The betrayal had been deeper than I imagined. Anthony didn't just cut me out for money. He was trying to erase me from every part of his life, even while I was still in it. The worst part? That dog. My dog, he was gone. They said he ran off. But I found out through a neighbor that Anthony had given him away to Lisa. Just handed him over like a hand-me-down. I filed additional charges. Fraud, emotional distress, breach of fiduciary duty. We added Lisa's name to the suit. And James subpoenaed Marlene's emails. Turns out, she was advising Anthony to push the sale fast and get rid of her before the courts slow you down. Those words were printed on legal letterhead and entered into evidence. Anthony started to unravel. I heard from mutual acquaintances that he stopped showing up to work. Clients were backing out. One of the local suppliers cut ties after seeing the story in the paper and reading the court filings. It was spreading. But I wasn't done, because I found something else in that manila folder Jared gave me. One of the construction projects Anthony managed, the one he bragged about being his legacy build, was being funded with investor money. But some of those investors weren't real. There were forged signatures, fake LLCs. He was committing wire fraud. And now I had proof. Once I realized Anthony had committed wire fraud, I knew the game had changed. This wasn't just a divorce. This wasn't about a house or money anymore. This was about exposing him for everything he truly was. James took the documents Jared gave us and submitted them to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. The Financial Crimes Division opened an inquiry within 2 weeks. Once that happened, everything moved fast. Anthony's accounts were frozen. His business was flagged. Clients pulled out. His bank dropped him. A notice went up at one of his job sites saying work was suspended pending investigation. People started talking. Vendors. Neighbors. Even the guys who used to toast him at the golf club suddenly couldn't remember his name. Meanwhile, our court case over the house was still ongoing. I showed up every single hearing in person. Hair neat. Face calm. I wanted the judge to see that I wasn't bitter. I was betrayed. Marlene refused to look at me. The day she took the stand to explain the forged investor documents, yes, she was involved too. She tried to play dumb. But the emails we'd subpoenaed were crystal clear. She pushed Anthony to fake numbers to keep the build going so we don't lose face in this town. It was all there, in black and white. I didn't have to say much in court. My lawyer handled most of it. But when the judge asked me what I wanted, I stood and told him the truth. I want my home. I want what I'm legally owed. And I want everyone in this courtroom to see that a woman can be discarded and still fight back. That you don't get to erase someone just because they stopped being convenient. He gave me everything. The house. My share of the business assets. Damages for financial fraud and emotional distress. Even partial ownership of the construction company, until it was dissolved due to bankruptcy proceedings 2 months later. Anthony was arrested. Charged with wire fraud, conspiracy to defraud investors, and financial elder abuse for involving his mother's accounts in the laundering. Marlene wasn't charged criminally, but she was ruined socially. Her name was splashed across the local paper and every industry newsletter in the state. People she'd known for 30 years stopped answering her calls. Lisa, the side-piece realtor, lost her license when it came out she helped Anthony try to illegally list and sell a house under dispute. And yes, I got my dog back. The buyer who took him in, bless her, agreed to return him once she saw the court case online. He's old now, but he still remembers me. As for me, I took the house, sold it, and left Savannah. I moved to Asheville, North Carolina. Started over. Got a small condo and a job at a private care facility. Quiet work, but good people. Do I still feel broken? Sometimes. You don't give over a decade of your life to someone and walk away clean. But I wake up every day knowing I didn't stay silent, that I didn't let them crush me. Anthony once said, "This is what you get for trying to steal from us." He was right, just not in the way he meant. Because now he's the one sitting in a cell. And I've got my name back, my dignity,
And my dog.